I'll call the Monday, March 16th, 2026 meeting of the Community Preservation Committee to order. This meeting of the Community Preservation Committee is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter
Hi, you
38.
will leave. This is your last call. The meeting has started. If you want to participate, I do need you to unmute, turn your camera on, and identify yourself.
Okay. Shall I continue? Chapter 38, Section 20, the chair must inquire whether anyone else is taping this meeting and to please make their presence known.
Back in a little bit and try again.
Did everyone get that? Okay. I'll assume we will. Please call the roll, Ellen.
Oh, yes. Terry Duenas,
Here.
Steve Robichaud,
Here.
Catherine Garofoli,
Here.
Farley Lewis.
Here.
Do we have Barbara yet? I don't see Barbara. And Lindsay Council.
Here. We have 5?
5. Yeah.
Okay. We can go forward. First on our agenda is a review of the draft Open Space and Recreation Plan with Kyle Pedicini, Assistant Director of Planning and Development. Kyle, you're on.
Hello, everybody. Kyle Pedicini, Assistant Director for the Planning and Development Department. Feels like it was just yesterday. I was before the committee asking for funds to do this update. I'm happy to report back that we are near completion of the town's open space and recreation plan update. We are actually shooting, although I haven't confirmed yet, to present this to the town council at their next meeting, which I don't know. I think the 26th is the date. Not this Thursday, next Thursday. So we've been working with the Open Space Committee since I think late 2024. They've been working on this. That started with the review of the last plan that was last updated in 2018. Shout out to Farley, who's on that committee. They've done a great job throughout the process. We had a robust public engagement process throughout 2 phases. So we had an initial phase where we had the consultants do interviews with different stakeholders. We met with different CPC members as well. And we also had a open house in late August where we got feedback from residents on needs and priorities for open space and recreation amenities in town. We had an initial draft working with the BSC group, which is a great consulting group that we worked with throughout the project. And then we came back to the public with that initial draft in November, solicited additional feedback and revised accordingly per the feedback. Both Steve and Lindsay gave us some great feedback that had a big impact in revising the final draft of the plan. So that latest draft, I believe I sent it to you, but this is like 2 months ago now that I was originally supposed to come before you guys. So if you don't have it, I can send it out again. It's on our website, on our open space and recreation plan project webpage. And like I said, we're hoping to present it to the town council on Thursday. I wanted to make sure to mention it to you folks as well. And once it's finalized, we'll make sure to send you a final plan. This is going to be important for the CPC because it's really a playbook going forward for the next 10 years. Hearing from our residents in terms of what their priorities are for open space and recreation planning, which you guys, will be very relevant for you guys as you have different funding requests come before you. So I'd recommend in the future use this as a guidebook. You see if projects are consistent with the open space and recreation plan, because this is really a conduit from our community to decision makers such as yourself. So with that, happy to answer any questions, and would be happy to share the draft plan with you. Hope you guys had a chance to take a look at it.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions for Kyle? Go ahead, Steve.
No question. I just wanted to commend Kyle and his team. I was there at one of the workshops, and there was a ton of comment. The room was really full, and the comments were wonderful. I thought the staff did a really good job taking all those in and summarizing them. And then I noticed very clearly that a lot of those comments were put right into the plan. And the process has been very transparent, very public, and just appreciate keeping everybody informed along the way. Great work.
Thank you. Raleigh?
Yep, just want to make a commendation to Kyle from the Open Space Committee. I thought he did a superb job orchestrating a very complex process, and it's a great focus for this. Thank you.
And
Thank
right
you.
back at you, Farley, to the Open Space Committee. It was a pleasure to work with you.
Probably your audio is a little muffled, if I will.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyone else? Terry, did I see you have a comment?
Well, I just want to commend Kyle. I've worked with him in a number of projects, and the town of Barnstable is extremely lucky to have him. I think he's a spectacular individual, and he did a great job on this project. Absolutely.
Thank you, Terry.
Keep up the good work, Kyle.
Thank you. I just want to say the town's lucky to have had you and Lindsay for as long as we've had on the CPC as well. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, we have a discussion coming up later in the meeting, and we'll have plenty more for the planning department going forward, I'm sure.
Excellent. Bring it on.
Thank you very much. All right, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of November 17th, 2025.
Okay.
Everyone had a chance to look those over?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the draft Community Preservation Committee regular meeting minutes from November 17th, 2025.
Second.
Any further discussion on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, Ellen, will you call the roll?
Sorry. Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
and Lindsay Council.
Yes. Very good. Thank you very much. Now we move to letters of intent. A letter of intent has been received from the Sturgis Library requesting $150,000 in CPA Historic Preservation Funds for the installation of a central cooling system, replacing 4 inefficient window units in the oldest part of the building, dating back to 1644, and used by visitors and researchers. The total project cost is $307,663, with $3,831.50 in Sturgis Library funds secured, and a $153,831.50 anticipated through a 1-to-1 matching Massachusetts Cultural Facilities Fund grant application that is pending approval. And I believe we have Lucy Loomis here from the library somewhere.
She's
Lucy? We can't hear you. Sarah, is Lucy's mic
got it.
on or off?
No,
I
she's muted.
turned it off. Sarah had,
There you go.
but there we go. Yes, I'm here.
Well, you want to give us your presentation?
Yes. So, basically what we are planning is the entire library, except for the historic section, it is air conditioned. And in a project that we did about, I'm going to say 8 years ago, maybe a little longer, we had looked at air conditioning in the historic portion of the building and gotten really some suggestions that we felt that it was going to be derogatory to the historic portion of the building. We didn't want to introduce any humidity at all, and we didn't. The kinds of systems that we were looking at, kind of led us to believe that, especially with a high velocity system, would be any researcher that was sitting in that section would get, noise in their ears. Mini splits would be very, they would take away from the historic nature of the building. So we put it off. And we revisited it because we think it's important for not only researchers, but staff, and also for the protection of the building itself. So we did get estimates and proposals from 3 different contractors working with Maria Raber of Catalyst. And we feel like they are reasonable estimates. We did get a third estimate because, Lindsay, maybe you want to talk about this a little bit more, but Lindsay and who came with you, Lindsay?
Steve Robichaud came with me when we
Yeah.
did the site visit.
Right. We talked about using our existing HVAC contractor to do the work, and seeing if we could still work with Cape Associates, who's been one of our major contractors in other grant proposals. And they came back with a number. They were reluctant to bid it out unless they had more details, and they won't have those details until after we get grant funding, because we're still in the grant phase. So they came in with a very high number, and Lindsay will share that with you. But anyway, we have 3 proposals. Those numbers may change after, if we get the grant funding. They're going to give us actual numbers, so it may be different. But what we're looking for is basically a match for any grant that we'll get from the Massachusetts Cultural Facilities Fund to do this project. Again, we're in the grant phase. We don't have final numbers, but we're asking you for $150,000.
Okay, well, this is probably the most extensive letter of intent I've gotten in my time.
I like to be thorough.
Yes, you do. And it's quite thorough. I think it is appropriate that we wait until you have 3 final quotes. If you're asking for 150, that would be what we award. And then if there's a discrepancy, as you made up in one of your proposals of the $3,800, it would be, and you wanted to use your own contractor, you would be making up that difference.
Right.
But you don't have a number for the grant and you don't have final bids. So I think for this meeting, given the proposal, I think it's reasonable. Steve and I did do quite a walkthrough up there, and if there's one thing I miss about CPC is getting into these places where you never get into, like the attic of Sturgis
Everybody's welcome
Library.
to come get a tour of the attic. So
Yes.
it's very cool.
And you'll see that this is very involved. It's lath and plaster in the building to insert these heating ducts and things. It's very tricky. And so it's very understandable. There was a little sticker shock when we first saw it, but Lucy is right. To hang splits on the outside of this building would be a shame and not appropriate. And Steve, you want to jump in with any notes you had on the project?
Well, I think you summarized it very well. I also was absolutely shocked and blown away when I first saw the numbers, but after going through it, it makes complete sense. It's an extremely challenging building. It's so historic. You have to be so careful and thoughtful with everything you do. You cannot make it unsightly with unsightly equipment. It just has to be done by a talented, experienced firm that has experience working in sites like this. So the dollar amount, after doing the extensive site walk, makes actually logical sense. And it sounds like something worth doing, only because We all know how harmful heat and humidity can be to these historic sites, and it's full of beautiful artifacts. So it's a wonderful initiative.
Thank you. Anyone else with questions on the project?
Lindsay, I have a question.
Yes.
So, totally understand the costs. I did notice under the project budget that you have the Sturgis Library Preservation Fund listed for $3,831.50. I was wondering, one, what is the total amount in reserves in that fund? And then two, um, Lindsay, is there a way for us to stipulate how much funding we provide based on the grant amount? Also, I'd like to know how much funding we've provided to the Sturgis Library in the last 10 years.
Don't have those numbers off the top of my head. We certainly could, when we see the final application come forward, make any stipulations that we want. Set an amount based on the awarded money. Lucy can provide us with more information on what she has on hand and what she can fundraise for. That could be included in the application.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. The preservation fund is really to maintain the build and preserve the building and our collections, our archival collections, and our special collections. It's not intended for major projects, so we have used it for a variety of issues that we've had in the building. There's not a ton of money in that account. I think right now there's $50,000, but we have some roof repair and we had some water damage this winter. So it's intended for, things that we don't anticipate in building maintenance with a winter like this. And we had leakage in part of the building, thank goodness, not in the historic portion, but so it's not a huge amount of money in that particular fund, but I'm happy to provide you with whatever we have in it at any particular moment.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from members? Seeing none, what we'd be looking for is a motion to move this to a full application.
I have a quick question, Lindsay.
Sure, Terry, go ahead.
Lucy, was any of this overlap or impact the work that you've done to the dehumidification and on some of the older, so the archival stuff stays pristine, that we've done in the past? I know we've done some projects that have given you rooms that dehumidify and do a number of things.
Yeah, yes, that's a good point. That's a totally separate part of the building. It's in the newer part of the building in the basement are the archives that you helped us fund.
Yep.
We created a totally new room that has no water access, nothing that could, get into the archives to destroy it. So that's in the newer part of the building. And this is the older part of the building where staff and researchers work. And it, in the summer, it's kind of brutal in there, even with those little window air conditioners. And we do find that we've gotten mold in areas that we don't want it. So.
Great.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? All right, anyone have a motion to send this to application?
I'll make a motion.
Go right ahead.
I move that we ask the Sturgis Library to commit this to application.
With the questions we had answered? we have answered how much we've given them in the past and what their final budget will be. How's
Great.
that?
Yes,
So it is the amount that you've given us in the past, you have that in your files. It's not something that I
Yes,
did. Okay.
we can
Uh,
get that.
yes.
And anything else we want included? I am seeing none. Everyone clear on the motion to forward the letter of intent of Sturgis Library to full application? Ellen, if you could read the roll?
Terry Duenas,
yes,
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
Lindsay Council.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you
Thank you
very
so
much.
I'm assuming that you would like to get the application after we find out if we're approved for the Massachusetts Cultural Facilities Fund. Is that correct?
Yes, we need a final budget so we can weigh that against your final request.
Okay.
And, we like it to be ready when it's complete. Do you have a date, the usual date they make that award? Or?
They do. They usually award it in May, and then
Okay.
we need to look back at these estimates and make sure that, I think Preferred Mechanical was just reluctant to, give us a price until they really knew, all the specs. They didn't want to, just guess. So that may be part of their reluctance, and that's the high number that seems pretty unrealistic. But they just didn't, once we get the go ahead with the grant, then Maria can put some real, details to the specs and everything. So
All right, you can get we still require the three proposals, the three bids
Yes.
on the new specs.
right.
Get those to us and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate working with you, and
All right.
I hope that we haven't overstepped and asked for too much in the past.
We'll see. That'll be based on the grant, I think.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Yep. All right. The next letter of intent has been received from the Department of Public Works requesting $2,415,500 in Community Preservation Act funds for restoration work at the John F. Kennedy Memorial Park in Hyannis. Based on a 2017 condition assessment study by Weston and Sampson, restoration work proposed includes replacement of the plaza and fountain, restoration of the memorial seal and stone wall, repair or replacement of existing engraved stones, landscape, walkway, parking and access improvements, as well as extension of the memorial into the lower lawn area overlooking the bay. The site holds immense historic value in preserving the memory of the 35th President of the United States and is a point of interest and pride for the town of Barnstable and Cape Cod. And I believe we have Mark Marinaccio from DPW.
Good evening. For the record, Mark Marinaccio, Department of Public Works, Town Architect. Thank you. It's been a while to get to this meeting. Started in January, snow, February, snow. So you'd have a large backlog. Yeah, as Lindsay mentioned, in 2017, Weston and Sampson completed a conditions assessment and some preliminary designs for restoration of the memorial. Next slide, please. Lindsay already went through the list of items that would be repaired or replaced. In that lower right corner, you can see the memorial wall and a corner of the fountain. The fountain's original, the fence is not. That fence was installed because people were going into the pool and getting money, and it was a hazard because of the depth of the fountain. But it's not original to the design. So we're looking to remove that fence as part of this design and try to bring this back to the original intent. The upper right corner is a postcard of the fountain. It was originally going to mimic the eternal flame as a water feature. So with an estimated cost of $2,677,500, the Department of Work is seeking for a $2,415,500 in community preservation fundings, and there'll be another $262,000 from other funding. Next slide. So work on the memorial wall would consist of repointing the wall, waterproofing the top to keep water from infiltrating into the wall. The bronze seal that you see there is starting to show signs of bronze disease, which is when salt and water affect the copper that's in the bronze. That bronze, we would propose to remove that, send it off to have it restored, in which they would have a statue bronze finish placed on it or finished to that level, and then would be waxed. And that bronze really needs to be waxed every 5 or 6 years to keep it in its original condition. We would reattach that to the wall and install original intent plantings around the plaza. Again, to the right is a photograph from a postcard of what the original intent was for that fountain and seal. Next slide. This is an aerial photograph of the plaza when there was some work being done to the fountain. Originally, the plaza was redwood slats. We have the original drawings for this construction. Lower right corner, you can see the detail of the wood slats in the concrete plaza. And that redwood has deteriorated. There's now a white coating that somebody has placed over this plaza. Some of these squares, obviously where the wood is embedded into the concrete is the weak point of the concrete, and the concrete is cracked at that location. And some of these squares have lifted and shifted. So the proposal really is to replace this plaza with new construction. Next slide. And this is the preliminary design that Weston Sampson had developed for the plaza. New concrete. They were proposing to introduce this granite timeline into the plaza, which would have quotes from JFK himself. We would introduce exterior walkway around the plaza, landscaping to mimic the original intent, even though it may not be exactly the same. It's going to be pretty hard to determine exactly what was there, but we would try to keep it as best we can to the original. Restoration stone monument, and of course the bronze medallion. Part of the design also included a walkway at a lower level. Right now, there are weddings and events that happen there that may or may not be appropriate for a memorial. So they were proposing to create a space outside of the memorial for those events. Next slide. This is the fountain, the way it was originally, how it exists today. You can see the difference in the actual fountain head. There's a rendering in the lower right of what was proposed. And of course, on the left is one of the original drawings for the inscription around the fountain. Next slide. And of course, this is the view to the water, to the bay. Next slide. And a rendering of the view towards the memorial wall. Next slide. And the budget, or the breakdown. We can get into more detail of this during a full application. Basically, we're looking at about a little over $2 million for the restoration work, and the rest of it is in soft costs. We still have to complete the architectural engineering drawings. We need to do a hazardous materials testing. There may be sealants or other materials used on the wall that may have asbestos in it. Carry money for abating those, money for advertising, and for project management. I think that's the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, Lynn Poyant is here. She knows a lot more about this. She's on the JFK Memorial Trust Fund. And Lynn, you have something you would like to add?
Thank you. Good evening, Lynn Poyant, Chair of the JFK Memorial Trust Fund. This is a project that we had started looking at prior to the 50th anniversary of the JFK Memorial, which was in July 8th of 2016. And we kept hoping that it would get moved along, and we had hoped that it would be in place for the 60th anniversary of JFK's assassination. That hasn't happened. We've had to spend money on the pool repeatedly because the mechanical is underneath the plaza, and that's problematic in getting to it. And so we were looking at this as a restoration as opposed to a renovation of the project. But it's something that the town's citizens in 1963, after the assassination of JFK, they were the ones that decided that this needed to happen. And for years, the monies that were collected at the pool and still to this day go to scholarships for students at Barnstable High School, the sailing program that Recreation Division runs, and other youth-related activities in the town.
Thank you, Lynn. Any questions from members? Steve?
What is the JFK Trust Fund?
The JFK Memorial Trust Fund was set up by the town meeting in, I want to say 1968, because they didn't know that people were going to be dropping off money into the pool when it was created. But the number of people that would go and visit it back in the day, before people turned over to ATMs and credit cards, had change in their pockets, and they would put the change in the pockets, and then we would clear that out, and that was how the money would get collected for the JFK Memorial Trust Fund. It is designed to benefit the youth of the town of Barnstable, and when we saw that pool collections were going down, we started selling hats, JFK Memorial hats there. And so we've been able to maintain funds by selling the hats instead of relying on pool donations.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
That it, Steve?
Yeah.
Catherine?
So I'm interested to understand how much the town makes in income for the weddings that are held there.
But I don't believe we make anything. I think that would be something that we would have to ask John Gleason, the recreation director, because this is a parcel that is part of the Veterans Park Beach area.
Mm-hmm.
And it's staffed and managed by Recreation Division.
Okay. The $262,000, where is that coming from?
A portion of that will be coming from the trust fund. There's been discussions about that. It's not sure how much they can actually afford for that, but the rest of it would probably come from the general fund.
Obviously, this is like a keystone parcel for the town of Barnstable. A lot of people go there. I can totally appreciate the fact that it's a landmark for our community. Why isn't this getting covered by capital improvement funds?
There is a capital improvement every year. This has been submitted as a capital improvement project. And as part of that project, every year when the budget comes out, there are projects that are identified as fundable through other means as well. And so this was identified as being able to be funded through community preservation funds. And on page 43 to 45 of that annual budget, there is a list of projects that are can use other funds. And as such, there's a CIP that's put in place, and then we also go for looking for funds from other means, whether it's a grant or whether it's from community preservation or from other fund that's available.
When it comes comes to the actual like layout and landscaping features, how can we assure that the plantings are actual native species for Massachusetts?
And so we get the grounds department involved with that, and Tyler on the grounds department, he's big on doing low maintenance and local species. There's also going to be some community outreach with this, where there were initially community outreach meetings during the design process, this preliminary design process. There's still a little bit more to work out as part of the development construction document, so there'll be chance for public input to that as well.
Lindsay, I guess my big concern is where would this funding come from? Are we talking recreation? Are we talking historic? Like, what is the thought process here?
Undetermined. This is the first we're seeing of it. And these three projects that are coming up here represent a huge portion of our remaining budget. And we are having a discussion later to bring forward one of our priorities out of the annual meeting, which was to focus on playground work through a bond issue. Given that we're being asked to refund virtually all of these funding on this, I would recommend on this project and on the Barnstable ball field, bathroom and basketball court, that we table those for now. Have our request, approve our letter going forward to the town manager, inviting in the planning department and particularly Mark Milne to look at the long list we have of projects. We're going to have the Centerville Bay Lane project coming forward. That's on the list soon. We need desperately to put at least one playground in Hyannis, which is going to involve, as we know these days, $1 million or more for playground equipment and land acquisition. So we could go through 10 or more $1 million with those projects. And then we're also looking at coming in down the pike in the not too distant future is anything that happens over at Comaquid Inn, which we're going to be asked to partner with the town of Yarmouth on. And then we'll be looking at one of the sites perhaps for a playground in North Hyannis and Barnstable would be the Hathaway's Pond site. So we have a myriad of projects that are going to be coming, and we will not be able to come close funding them all without a bond. So I think we should table this and table the Osterville request. The other big one that's on the horizon that our planning department has helped with that's ready to begin development is the Marston's Mills, the former school site over there for a big playground, fields, and potential community housing. That's already had several public meetings. So we got a lot of planning to do. And whether or not one is more compatible with another, I think we need to have the conversation with the town manager, town council, and finance to see just how we're going to pay for it all. It's all great stuff. Love to do it all tomorrow. But I just don't see it all happening at once. I think this is a good project. I know they've been asking for years. They've tried it, the CIP, for years. It's unfortunate it didn't get done. But what you could do through our planning process was begin the review of this site, begin the review of some of the other sites, get serious about it, start getting numbers, and then look to do a bond. So that would be my recommendation. Any thoughts on that or anything else, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, I very much agree with what you and Catherine are saying. Without a bond in place, it's just going to get very tight to try and fund everything that we have before us. Between this and our first application on our agenda, we're looking at 3.5 million. And the Kennedy project is a very worthwhile project, but we have no choice but to think about priorities and what does the town need? What does the community want? I've gone down and looked at this site lately, and there's nothing strikingly in disarray to me. I mean, it is visually in decent shape. So I don't, it doesn't scream to me as a immediate priority. The CIP fund, it's a little bit frustrating just because it kind of feels like a chicken or the egg type thing. I would prefer that the capital improvement made a commitment to what they could fund and then come to CPC for the rest. Instead, it seems the way that they do it is they say there's alternate funding potentially available for this. Go try and see what we can get from CPC, and then we'll kick in the rest. I mean, this is asking CPC to fund 90% of the project. That's a huge percentage. We love to see 40 to 60%. So that's just it's a big ask. I would not be comfortable voting yes on the Kennedy Memorial or the Osterville Comfort Station at this time. One question I had, and again, this conversation changes depending on how our discussion goes about a bond. I think we've had great chats and discussions about that before, and I think that's a worthy thing to talk about. Lindsay, what do we have? With the planning board, we have kind of time limits on agenda items. If we were to move the Kennedy Memorial from letter of intent to application, does any sort of clock start ticking in terms of us needing to make a decision on the application?
We have no clocks on anything. So if we were to put it on hold, put some numbers together, we could come forward in a short period of time with the money to begin the planning. So we get real numbers. They've got to start looking for hazardous materials. If they find anything over there, that's going to change this number completely. So we need to get final numbers. We've been guessing at a lot of it. I think the Osterville Comfort Station, we were going to have, I'm sure, a discussion about changes to that using modular, perhaps. Let's get some real numbers using that. I think the one that I would like to see go forward, because we need to finish that area, is the Centerville ball field. That's been in the queue for a while, that they're wrapping up the playground. Let's finish that one. But before we go too much deeply into some of these other town requests, and we have other areas that, we want to look at. I've talked to folks over at Rec, maybe a playground at the HYCC where the skate park is. Apparently the skate park's not being used. And as I said, Anthony's Comaquid Inn, that's a big question mark. And that, aside of a bond issue, I don't know how we're going to afford these things. So I think we can pull some of these projects out. We would be asked to do some of the funding for the planning. Maybe we do the planning for 2 or 3 playgrounds at once. And then we keep them moving, but we know we've got the money in the bank. So Mark can commit to finalizing these projects. And I think it'll help us with the CIP program. If they say, oh, these guys have got this, it's in the planning stages, it looks like CPC can cover this, we'll make up the difference. Yeah. And I'd like to see them help with playgrounds and then some of these other improvements as well. But it's hard for Mark to go in unknown to these CIP meetings. It's all the department heads vying for this cash. They get a certain amount of money there, and they've all got buildings that need to be fixed or projects that need to get done. So it's tough. And DPW's numbers are always big. So maybe we can help that process by firming up some numbers for that and getting public support. I think we could generate a lot of public support if we came forward. Go ahead,
Lindsay.
Catherine.
So I guess my other big 2 questions would be, so the state just released its Parkland Acquisition and Restoration Fund with an application deadline of July. I'm just wondering if the town has any intention on applying for that $425,000 grant opportunity that we could match, which would be a nice opportunity. 1. And then 2, I'm wondering about this, the fund. I guess to be able to pull $262,000 from this fund, it makes me wonder how much is in the fund. Because if it's supposed to be used for scholarships, why do we still have $262,000?
That's a complicated issue, and part of it is because we were told that if we came to the CPC, we would need to have to put some skin in the game. So the committee has been holding some of that. We've increased it for years. The number of scholarships that we gave were 1 a year, and last year, past few years actually, we've been at 6. We've also had to pay for the maintenance of the facility, which was not something that was originally intended from the fund. But DPW, the Structures and Grounds, gives us a list of expenses every year that the memorial covers for that. And we had an extenuating circumstance 2 years ago where the medallion of JFK on the image, that part that faces the pool, fell off. And that needed to be restored. We've got issues with the wall that holds both medallions. And so that was over $10,000 to fix that. But there are expenses that if we're not going to get the money from somewhere else, we need to make sure that the Memorial Trust Fund Committee has the funds to be able to make those repairs. I don't know
It's
if
very
that
good you've been able to secure those kinds of monies, and I say the same for Sturgis Library. Keeping a little bank on the side for a roof repair is a good idea. So a 262,000 in this project, you know, most of those types of things that Lynn mentioned, we can't fund. So the other question I always have when we bring these projects forward, who's going to maintain this going forward? And what commitment can we get out of the town for that? And I think that's what we would be looking for through our bonding program, promises to build this and maintain it, which we did during the park project in Osterville. They will take care of it. They're going to look after it and put it on their list to be checked and things fixed, as Mark described during his presentation for that.
Just
Someone else
to
had a Terry.
clarify that funding, I think during discussions there was $100,000 floated from the trust fund, and then there would be other money made up from some other source. So I don't think there's a lot of money sitting there, but just want to clarify that.
Terry.
I think this would be a perfectly appropriate project to kind of group in with some of the existing playgrounds and things. And it seems like Mark Milne was very positive about the idea of doing a bond and putting all these kind of major projects because of the staggering costs of playgrounds, if nothing else, because Mark Marinaccio brings us these fabulous playgrounds, which, you know, we hear them and we just go, yeah, let's fund those. And then we go, how are we going to pay for that? And so it's a situation that we look at. This one may be appropriate to be in with all those because it's it's a very positive, program to be able to put together a project. So it makes perfect sense to do that. Can we get Mark Milne in and start looking at what some of these major ideas of doing a bond would be?
Well, that's what our letter is going to request, that we be taking up later in the meeting, is a request for a formal meeting with the manager, town manager, assistant town manager, planning staff, to ask the question, put the numbers together. I'm sure the manager would be in touch with Mark to say, okay, let's have the whole list here.
Sure.
What are you thinking about? And I'm talking about, we'd have to put on that list, as I said, some of this stuff we don't have numbers on. The Marston's Mill School playground and park and housing, we don't have numbers. We can take a good guess, but we could come up with a round enough figure for a bond that we can then borrow against and use as needed.
We don't even know what's going to go on with Comaquid, and Comaquid is going to be staggering. I'm just guessing, but I'm sure
it's going to be it's a 10-acre piece of property over there. About 5 of it's useful. I believe the current owner would have to do the demolition, so we'd get a clean site. But what are we going to do there? What is the facility? Is it just going to be a place to go look at the ocean and maybe catch a sunset at the right time of year, or is it going to be a other developed thing?
Sure.
So we'd need to allow for that. As I said, and there are other possibilities out there for for park development. We have Ridgewood Park in Hyannis, very small little park. It was redeveloped about 15 years ago. It's a mess again. It was never a good design in the first place. Maybe we could get a little park going in Hyannis at the beginning, give DPW through Mark at Structures some money to start some planning on bigger projects and start moving these things along. That's the way forward. We need to do planning and then implementation with the money secured in the background. And then we'll have to look at, how other projects fit in as they come in. But things have slowed down on our end. Historic has slowed down. I predict open space is going to slow down. We don't have that many acquisitions any longer. So it is a ripe opportunity to do this. I would call it a recreation program. But we need time to plan. So not that this would be, my thought would be just putting this off again like we've done in the past to some of these projects, but give us a meeting or two here to get something set up with the town manager. And as I said, we could allocate feeder money for going forward, get the survey done on a couple of these. It's going to take a couple $100,000 to look at this, find out what the JFK is going to really need. And the other big side of these projects is these community meetings. I mean, what does the community want? You're going to go do all these things. Well, you better check with the community, as Marcus find out. Sometimes they have their own ideas. So I think our taking a pause here would be the way to go. Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Well, my only question is just, do we move it to application or do we just kind of pause?
Just pause. I don't
Okay.
think we're ready for an application. He's got to do hazmat searches out there. That could
Yep.
change these numbers significantly. We don't know what's in that previous concrete.
Yeah,
Could be loaded with asbestos back from when that was built.
I agree.
That becomes a hazmat. So I would just wait farther.
Yeah, I just, so you put this on pause, what happens if, that memorial becomes more degraded and it gets more costly to fix it?
That's always a factor. Always a factor. It'll be on the group to keep the entire project moving. Doesn't take long to set up a bond. You have to go through the bond council, and that's work on Mark Milne's part. But I agree with Terry. He was very enthusiastic about it. And I think in the long run, if you were to able to bid a couple of these projects at the same time, you may be pleasantly surprised. So yeah, waiting does cost money. There's no question about that. We learned that in the Osterville playground.
I only have two concerns, Lindsay, and one is if it doesn't get moved or voted on at all, then, I'm worried that the project gets lost for another 7 years. And the other is funding. There's not a lot that I can do without funding, as far as moving it forward with construction documents or more testing or anything like that. So it's just want to put that out there for your consideration.
As I've said a couple of times, we could fund the initial planning stages. If that includes a study on the Kennedy site, so be it. I believe we would have to hire a consultant to look at building playgrounds in Hyannis. The Marston's Mill School needs to have a designer and a company brought in, and decisions made not only by us, but by the town council on whether they want a playground there, what kind of ball fields, what kind of housing. That's going to take money. It's within our purview to provide funding for the design of that project. If we were to do something at Hathaway's Pond and put a playground over there, it's within our purview to put funding into that. We could get this going very quickly. Very quickly. You'd be overwhelmed with people coming into your office.
Would you
So
recommend me repackaging this as a design request?
I would wait and see. We've got to get permission from the manager and Mark Milne to go forward with our bonding thing. And we are going to ask the committee to accept that letter tonight, which Steve and I will sign, and to set up a meeting immediately to begin scoping out what would be needed. And I'm sure your phone is going to ring. You've got enough projects on your list, as the ones I've mentioned. These three that are here tonight are not the end of the end of the list. And if there's, Hathaway's Pond's been on our list for how many years, Mark? I mean, it's been a while. I think that's a prime opportunity for a site. We promised that when we turned down the playground and took down the one at BWB over there in Barnstable. Again, if we took a quick look at HYCC, that needs major work again. That would be the third time we would have funded that. Is Recreation Department willing to have that be a small pocket park? So these are things that can get started right away. So if we came forward with $1 million for planning money, I think that would be money well spent.
Yeah.
Stephen.
Yeah. So Lindsay, I mean, ultimately, I think to kind of to summarize is it simply give us a couple meetings to get going on this bond discussion, and that will allow us to bring forward some guidance about how we start to proceed here.
Anyone else want to weigh in? Seeing none, I would motion to table this. And Mark, I don't think it's worthwhile going through Ossville at this point. I would table that and allow us to go forward to the town manager. We will report back at the next meeting in April where we're at. If it's dead in the water, then you can, go your normal application, the letter of intent application process. If there looks like hope, then we'll go forward from there.
Yeah, Lindsay.
Yes.
If you don't mind, I just want to make one comment about the Oshkosh Recreation site. The comfort station to me is a lot bigger than kind of what I would expect at that site. If we did not have the potential for a bond, I would say that would need to be pared down. But again, as we've said, if we are able to get a bond moving, then that's something that could be packaged in that. So I just wanted to put that out there.
And the other point too is we are only getting the open space and recreation plan finalized now. I haven't looked at it in recent months, but I think that may give us some guidance as to what the needs are in long term. So we may learn something from that. Someone else have a question? All right, I would make the motion that we table the letter of intent for the JFK Memorial and the application for the Osterville recreation area. Table it going forward to the next meeting to explore the possibility of a bond.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Everyone clear on what we're voting for? Everyone's clear? Ellen, would you call the roll?
Harry Duenas,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
Lindsay Council.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mark and Lynn. And we'll be back to you in a month.
Thank you so much.
All right, Mark, you're on for Centerville.
Okay, sorry, you look up that presentation.
Yes.
Yep, just one second.
Lindsay, you had usually read the introduction, I think. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Let's see. Let me get it here. An application has been received from the Department of Public Works for the Community Preservation Open Space and Recreation Funds to update the existing ball field at the Centerville Recreation Building site located at 524 Main Street, Centerville. The DPW is requesting $930,670 in community preservation, open space, and recreation funds. In 2023, the town of Barnstable appropriated $827,376 for additional parking and other site improvements, allowing for ADA compliant access to both the playground and the ball field. The proposed initiative seeks a comprehensively rejuvenate the ball field area and has received strong community support. A new site-appropriate 60-foot baseline regulation infield will be created with a short practice outfield. New benches, durable backstop, and outfield fence and prefabricated pump station and septic system are included in the project.
Thanks, Lindsay. Sarah, could you go to the next slide, or it's really the first slide? So, in about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years now, we were bringing the playground before the community, and the entire meeting ended up being about this ball field and the desire of the community not to lose this ball field. And then when we were meeting on site for the playground, we had a conversation about bringing in a prefabricated restroom facility to the site to kind of complete the site. So this 930,670 represents that total number. Current condition of the field is a pretty rough shape. It's used for pickup games. It's the comprehensive field study back about, boy, it must be 12 years ago, really identified this site as a multi-purpose field. But with a strong community reaction, a desire to be able to have pickup games here and Little League practice, we modified the plans for the playground and the parking area in order to be able to incorporate this field. Next slide, please. These are just pictures of the existing field. This no longer exists. This infield no longer exists. It's now a parking lot has encroached onto that area if you've been to the site. And this upper right corner shows photo shows the old chain link fence that's corroded and in disrepair. Next slide. This site before the playground. Next slide, please. This is a Little League field, regulation field. So the existing field was not a Little League field. It was too small for that. Next slide, please. What did fit for regulation size was called a Pinto ball field. And they had a little larger outfield, but the infield matched those dimensions. Slide. So in reaction to the community's request, we have included this ball field, which is a regulation Little League infield with a short outfield. There'll be a new backstop, be a new outfield fence, new benches. There's an outfield wall to protect the parking. There's a new restroom facility that was requested and a new septic system for that unit. Next slide, please. It's a close-up of the ball field. In discussions with community, there were Little League representatives there who stated that they would really use this field for infield practice because it never had a long enough outfield for full outfield practice, and that's kind of what the design criteria was for this field. Next slide. Here's a close-up of the location for the prefabricated restroom. Originally, we had looked at a location to the right of the parking lot there where that slope is, but I need to cross the existing leaching field in order to get to a new field. That's the location of the existing leaching field for the building. And so in order to put this facility in, we would need a small leaching field away from the existing one, as well as utility connections. Next slide. And so this is a prefabricated restroom. This cost us $250,000. So there are upgrades to the exterior. We would probably do something more in keeping with Cape Cod architecture, like the clapboard or shingles. This is a $250,000 option, which is probably adequate out there. It's one toilet and a utility space. Next slide. And this is the $300,000 version, which is 2 toilets with the utility space in between. Same options are available. Next slide. And so here is the budget with the $250,000 prefabricated restroom in it. Shows the ball field improvements, which is that broken down in the lower right corner there. The ball field at $313,600. The restroom facility, the septic system, the new sidewalk to connect to the restroom, and a retaining wall that's required for the walkway. General conditions, what we expect to pay a contractor to install it, and insurance, bonds, overhead, and profit, and then of course the soft costs to develop that. Next slide. This is just an overall view. If you had any questions.
I do.
Members? Steve?
I mean, first of all, this is awesome. I love this. I loved how you showed the three possible fields and then the one that you felt was the right and why. I like that it's going to have the regulation Little League infield, which will, I think, make it eligible for, hosting those games. And obviously, that's kind of the fun thing about different sites is that you get a different outfield. It's a different distance to this wall or that wall. So I think that's great. Sarah, do you mind pulling up the slides again on the bathrooms? I just wanted to clarify I love this concept of the prefab bathroom. I think that's really cool. And I also love the idea of updating the exterior aesthetic to match, our great Cape Cod style. Shingles would look beautiful, clapboard. So Mark, am I correct in saying that the single is 250K and then the next slide, the double is 300K?
Yeah, that's their price delivered.
Wow. It seems to
Yep.
me it would be, it seems
You
to me
get,
it would
you
be a
get more for your
logical
buck for the
upgrade.
extra 100,000, right?
Yeah.
50,000.
It seems to me like a very logical upgrade, especially if you're having a game there to have the two. I just think that that's a really nice option.
Is this a year-round toilet, Mark? Can we use year-round or is it gonna be shut down seasonal?
It'd probably be shut down seasonally. I mean, it'd probably go into the fall. Well, there's power there. I haven't gotten into whether there's heat in those spaces or not. So I would think like with most of the comfort facilities, we shut them down in, November and then open them back up in the spring.
Okay, well, they do have one in Harwich at their ball field. That services a much more active place than this and it's heated, so it's just the heat comes out of the middle room with a couple of ducts in there and that's it.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have electricity to it, so that is an option if that was something that was desired.
Great.
Anyone else? Questions? I
I
had
have
a
a
couple of
question.
questions. Oh, go ahead, Catherine.
I'm wondering if this restroom is going to be ADA compliant.
Yes, it has to be ADA compliant. We're compliant. We just put in a ADA accessible playground and we made the lower parking areas so the field is accessible. So yes, it would definitely be accessible.
Terrific. I guess the thing that I'm going back to is the Osterville project, the comfort station. Why isn't this an option for that?
Well, if you had moved forward with the presentation, you would have seen those exact same slides for Osterville because during conversations we were asked about whether or not that could be a prefabricated structure, and was part of what we were looking into. So those same exact units would apply into that location as well.
That's great.
That one we had proposed the two bathroom facility, the $300,000 one.
I'd like to see these standardized across the town. I think there are places that need them right away, like Lombard Field, for example, could use one. You can't get in that building. The Harbor Hawks Field need one. So that could be, again, part of our planning process, something that could be started right away.
Yeah.
To standardize this. We're in the Stone Age in the town of Barnstable for bathrooms.
You still have to put in your foundation, you still have to put in your septic system
Yep.
and utilities, but that's short work compared to building an entire building.
Yep. Anyone else? Questions, Terry? Microphone? Microphone?
I was never a fan of the project having the ball field in it because I always thought, I've seen that field. It's just, there was never enough space. But boy, Mark, you really did a great job trying to accommodate the usage and having the infield work. even if the outfield is a little funky, it'll work for practice fields. I don't know about playing games there, but the smaller little leaguers should be fine in there. So this is really a great way to work around on that.
Thank you. I really think that the village was really looking at, when we were kids and we'd go out and we'd have a pickup game with our friends and
Right.
a less formal field rather than like Lombard or Osterville is, where it's more of a village field,
Sure.
a neighborhood field. Yeah.
I think it's great.
I had a couple of questions on that field location. Why was it chosen to put it in the northeast corner? Because that is very dangerous for outfielders. Most games are in the afternoons, and you're looking into the setting sun. And you get an outfielder and an infielder running together, that's cause for collision. You had one slide where you put it in the south west corner. That would give you a bigger left field, which is where 85% of your hitters are, and may preclude the need for any extra fencing at the parking area. And it will give your outfielders no visual impairment.
Sarah, can you load up that presentation again?
Just tell me which way.
Go towards the beginning to the towards the beginning, a couple more. Next one. Okay, next one. So that is like in the northwest corner.
Right.
So if you take a look at the surrounding property, there is a building that is right on the property line there. So rather than hitting balls into the neighbor's yard, it was really kind of determined to be better to keep it on our property. Maybe a foul ball will go that way. There's going to be a backstop to this and a fence. But if I'm hitting in the other direction, I'm hitting into the other property, especially since this is such a short outfield. So that was the concern.
What about a cage type backstop?
Yeah,
and you can point it in the other direction. You're going to get more distance for the right-handed hitters, a lot more.
Having the home plate down here in the lower right corner.
Lower right corner.
Yeah, we can look at reversing that. I just have to figure out how I'm going to protect the cars from foul balls.
Same thing. You're going to be protected if you have you know what I'm talking about.
It was just that because this wasn't set up to have Little League regulation games on it, it was a pickup field. I just thought that it was better, but we can talk about changing the rotation of that with no problem.
Because I'm not worried about Little League, and the little kids that are going to be intended. What did you call it? The Pony League.
Yep.
That's supervised. Those kids are young. It's the pickup games that you're going to have a problem with, and they're going to be bouncing balls off the parking lot if the teenagers get out there and have a game. So, and the sun, I'm really serious about it. If you look at all the ball fields in town, most of them are in the southwest corner.
Yep.
Looking towards the building. The Katuitt Kettleers, Barnstable High School baseball field, Harbor Hawks field. That's how they orient them.
Yep. Well, I can take a look at reorienting it, and we can have a conversation about that.
Okay. Other than that, I'd like to get this one done. This is going to be very popular place when you are complete.
Yeah, the playground right now, we started, now that the weather's clear, we started framing the walkway down into the playground from the lower parking lot. And then next week, they'll be framing the stairs that go up. And then all we're really doing is waiting on the weather to put the port in place. And so we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but I'm not promising that. We're still scheduled for the middle end of June.
And how will this affect the construction going forward for the ball field? Are you going to have to close the park while the ball field's being constructed?
We will not be closing the playground while the ball field's being constructed. It's in a separate area. And we'd have to keep that parking lot available. So really the access is in a totally different location. We would have to keep some handicap parking spaces available to use the walkway down, and then there's the front parking lot and stairs down. So we could have limited use of that rear parking lot in order to stage this, and we'd probably do it as much as we could in the off season.
Okay. All right, any other questions, members? Am I missing anyone? Everyone had a chance? Farley? You're okay? All right, what would be, well, I'll make a motion, we approve the Centerville Recreation Field, Main Street, Centerville, request for $930,670 to construct the field with a revised drawing showing the ball field oriented with home plate in the southwest corner. Everybody okay with that?
Now, you changed it from the plan, from the initial plan, though.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Change the ball field so you're hitting away from the parking lot.
Okay.
I do just Mark, are you okay with that worded that way?
I'm just not sure of the impact of that. If I could, as long as I can do it, as long as we can figure that out, that's fine. If we can't figure it out, that's my concern.
You want to wait till next month? Go figure it out and come back?
No, I'd rather get the money and then come back to you if I can't do it. How's that?
Okay, sounds good.
I like it. That works.
Lindsay, it
Terry?
makes me think that, yeah, you could do like a Green Monster kind of style fence, or a fence that many years ago, and I go back in history, when we built Lopes Field, and it was a short right field, and so it had a great big high fence. But I mean, there were guys, I mean, you couldn't keep like Glenn Rose and Scotty McPherson in the field anyway, so they just hit it over the big tall fence.
Yeah, that fence is still there on Old Colony Road. It's got a mesh fence. And I believe you're talking about a high fence at the parking lot, right, Mark? A higher fence at the parking lot?
Yeah, higher fence will probably be like a green wall or something like that.
He's gonna put
Or
up a
net
green
system.
wall at the parking lot. If you can see how hideous that's gonna be.
Well,
That's gonna
Well,
be terribly ugly. That's awful.
It depends on
Let the right fielders hit north. Let the right fielders hit towards the north where there's more room, so you don't have a big green wall when you drive in there. It's gonna be awful.
So Lindsay, I just want to be clear. So we're going to move home plate to the southwest corner.
Yes.
Okay.
Right fielders will be hitting north. Left-handers will be hitting east into the wooded patch.
Okay.
You may be able to get rid of the green monster fence you're planning, because I don't think most of them are going to reach that. And
It depends who it is.
well, it's going to be worse. How high was this green monster fence at the parking lot going to be?
We have if you take a look at Lombard Field, we have a net system up against the parking lot there. It'd be similar to that.
Ugh, ugly, ugly, ugly. Ugh, can't believe how ugly that's going to be. But I think for pickup games, you'll have a better distance. You're going to have much more footage going into the hitting towards the north for righties. You may be able to get rid of that fence altogether, which would be nice. I mean, you put in a regular 4-foot fence, dividing fence, but I didn't realize it was going to be quite that high. That's a big, ugly net.
Yeah. I'm just looking to protect it against people that may be going out there just to, mess around and maybe
Right.
challenge each other to see if you can hit the car. Right. So
Yeah,
just to
there you
protect-
go. There you go. It'll be the pickup games is where you're going to get the call that somebody has hit the Porsche in the parking lot and the kids took off.
Yeah.
And why,
Trying to
so-
protect against that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the call that'll go into the manager's office. Who hit the Porsche?
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
So, Mark, I guess my question for you is, who designed the field? And did they have a reason behind the configuration that you've presented to us? Because I totally respect what Lindsay has to say, but I am no expert on how and where a baseball field needs to be engineered. And so I just want to make sure that we're leaning on people that know what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was just based off of fields that we've done in the past and based on this configuration and, trying to fit a ball field into this site as best as possible. Can it be modified? Yeah, it can be modified. I mean, this was really just done in our office based on our experience with doing ball fields.
What about putting it in the old location and using a caged backstop for prevent foul balls and putting the net by the houses?
Yeah.
And then you could have Little League there. Because they aren't gonna reach that. So you put the net down at the back of the field. As ugly as it'll be, it'll get lost back there. And the field's down there, we're close to the parking lot, near the restroom.
Hitting towards the southwest.
Now you're heading towards the southwest.
Yeah, that's the way it was oriented originally.
And if you have a cage backstop, it'll prevent foul balls going into the neighbor or the parking lot. And then you're hitting away. Hey, and then anyone who plays there, they break a window in the house, they don't belong playing there. I mean, really. But so you've got options. I just think that, and I didn't realize there was a large, hideous net going up in the parking lot. Yeah.
Well, it's just the poles and the net structure that should get taken down every fall and put back up in the spring.
Yeah, but still ugly. All right, so you want to wait till next time and come back? Or do you want the money?
No, I think I'd like to secure the funding and we can just have a offline conversation. I can do a couple sketches and send it to everybody and you can see what the results are and we'll just move forward with that.
Okay, we got to go to the council first, though.
It's got to go to
write you a
council.
check tomorrow.
We'll have it worked out by then.
All right, thank you.
It's going to take 90 days to get the council probably, and within that time we'll work up some ideas on possibilities of rotating this and send it to everybody and come up with a consensus.
Holly, did you have a hand up? No?
No.
Okay. All right, it's moved. Did you second? Do we get a second on this?
Well, so after all that discussion, are you happy with the motion?
Yep.
Okay. I'll second.
Well, Lindsay's motion was to put in a certain location, so I don't know if he wants to modify.
Just look at revised plans hitting away from the parking lot. I think that's the concern.
That's what we'll do.
And modifying the backstop to contain foul balls. Those are the two major changes.
Okay.
Which I think folks will like the old field and the old position anyway. People they like change, but this will be a vast improvement. All right. No further discussion. Ellen, would you call the roll?
No, she said it. Yes.
You muted, Ellen.
I'm sorry. Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Carly Lewis,
Yes.
Lindsay Council.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now we go into the rest of the agenda. And we did receive
You like it?
correspondence from the Affordable Housing Growth and Development Trust Fund Board for the fiscal year ending 2025 and fiscal position report as of June 30th, 2025 related to the award of Community Preservation Act funds. You all got a copy of that? This is what you had asked for, was a report from the trust fund. If you have questions, we could ask them back to the next meeting. If you want to think about that for the next meeting, let me know. We can put them in. It would be interesting to see if they come forward with anything for the Marston's Mills Elementary School site and how that would be funded. So we're going to need to enroll these people into how that would be done. That could be just farmed out to a developer. That could be done by a town, as a town project. There's a number of options on that, so we will see. We okay on that one?
Mm-hmm.
The Mill Pond Conservation Restriction application was approved by the town council on November 20th, 2025. We're still working on the conservation restriction for that, so that is not complete. Conservation restrictions for the Harju and Prince Ave properties were approved at the December 4th meeting, 2026 meeting of the town council, and have been granted to the Barnstable Land Trust. A plan for the conservation restriction area for 230 Old Colony Road has been completed and subsequent is be submitted to the planning board and the town council for their approval. A conservation restriction for the area will be granted to the Barnstable Land Trust. This is the former Amaral project. It'll be the last of the outstanding conservation restrictions we have. So Steve, you'll be getting that as to, I believe it's with the town surveyor, town engineer, surveyor for his approval, and you'll be getting that submitted shortly.
Got it.
Any questions on those so far? The closing for the Smiths Creek Conservation Restriction took place on December 8th. That was the restriction granted to the Orinda Wildlife Trust. So that's 5 acres over there in West Barnstable. We have not heard anything from Oddfellows. They are still working on their nonprofit status. Our consultant has submitted a final draft preservation restriction for the South Congregational Church burial ground to the Massachusetts Historic Commission, and we're awaiting MHC approval on that. The planning and development's application for CPA funds for hiking trail signage was approved by the town council on January 8th, and they'll be going forward with that installation this spring. That's the little brown signs we approved. Trail crossings. Member discussion, conflict of interest training, PowerPoint. Stephen, you had that on here?
Yeah, if it's okay with you, Mr. Chair, possibly we could have Ellen send out the PDF of the PowerPoint. All it is I recently did my conflict of interest training and just shared some general information with the planning board about that, about the process, the time commitment, etc. So rather than go through that PowerPoint, if it's okay with you, we could have Ellen send it out to members.
Yes.
Okay.
I've already done mine as well. Giving the short gap, I guess there will be a gap between, they like you to get it done after the first of the year. So when we are appointed in June, so there is a gap. I kept getting the notice from the state that I hadn't completed my little review. Okay. Next item is the letter of support from the CPC members regarding the recreation bond. And that would be a vote to authorize the chair and vice chair to begin preliminary discussions with all related stakeholders, which you heard me mention earlier, and report back to the CPC. So this would be this bond that would authorize us to go forward with the planning and then the development of what I see more of, and we've brought in other projects that the town has, which is understandable, but prioritizing, developing budgets, and then bonding. Those will be the 3 basic steps that I see.
Yeah.
And I'd love to get the planning department involved. Things that we run through the planning department seem to get completed in a reasonable amount of time. And I talked to folks over there, they'd be excited to be involved. And this planning's not going to be cheap. You saw the number for Kennedy Memorial. Here that hazardous materials are now over there. These are the things we're going to run into. So I think we need to take a look at the new open space plan, see what that's in there for us regarding this. Uh, we have pretty much completed, believe it or not, most of the recommendations in the 12-year-old recreation plan. And I think we can check off some of the sites that I mentioned as either possible. Hathaway's Pond, is we going to be able to put a playground there? Develop that? What's going to be the planning? I'm not included in the discussions right now because it's mainly going on at the town manager's level on the Comaquid Inn. So that needs to be folded in because that could come in the door for a big ask at any time. And the other one is the Marston's Mills school site. That could be a very big ask. But I'd like to see us in this mix get some playgrounds in Hyannis. That's,
Yeah.
you look at all the CPC numbers we have, and of all the precincts in town, Hyannis is the least served for any of this. And that's because it's the developed area of town. But I have some ideas I'd like to bring forward on my way out the door of places where parks could be developed in Hyannis. Ridgewood Park is one of them, a small, perhaps younger age group in the 2 to 5 year old age, because it's a small site. And we may find that we're building smaller things, but maybe more of them. Like the skate park at the HYCC. I took a quick look over there, and you could put a nice little pocket park. But that might only be a single age group, 5 to 12, or whatever the age was is appropriate. You could tick a couple of those off and get those started. You'd begin, and then you could do some more complete park-like projects at perhaps Hathaway's and Marston's Mills.
Yeah.
So that's what the letter would get Steve and I started. Steve, you have comments on that?
Yeah, I just don't want to go on too long here, but there was a few things that were very important to all of us that I wanted to mention. We've talked about this so many times before. We've all heard from the community that this is such a need. I remember back to the days when I was serving on this committee with Jim Tenaglia, who was representing recreation. And there just always seemed to be a feeling that there was a lot to do with recreation, and potentially recreation wasn't getting the attention and the funding that it deserved. We've heard again and again from the community. I can remember when we were in person for our annual meeting, those courageous children that stood up and spoke
Yes.
to us and had those such wonderful comments. And I'd hate for them to finally see some new playgrounds when they are adults. I'd rather we find a way to make it happen now. Mark Milne had a great presentation to us where he explained just the health of our fund and how well we've done managing that over the years. The only bond that I am aware of is the one that had to do with the golf course, which is now in the rearview mirror. And the fact that we would be able to safely take out a bond and handle the debt service on that bond with our funds while still remaining healthy and safe and conservative with plenty of funds for projects that come before us. The playgrounds and green space, that to me is the priority based on what we've heard from the community with the open space plan and all the comments that we've heard. And the point of this letter was simply to get a kind of a mandate from this committee rather than Lindsay and I going off without kind of like all of us having the same path, before us and having consensus there. So that was the thought, to put this out here and make sure that everyone's okay with us kind of having those discussions. There's so many different stakeholders. There's so many people that would have to be engaged. And this isn't voting for a bond or anything official. This is just basically authorizing the chair and vice chair to begin those discussions. Anything we learn, I think we should have a standing agenda item every meeting to report back on what Lindsay and I have learned so we
Right.
can keep the discussion going. But the biggest thing is anybody who has owned a business or engaged in business or owned a house, we all know when you do multiple projects at once, you save money, no matter what you're doing. So rather than designing one playground, then building one playground, and then starting over, and if you take and we decide we're going to do 4 playgrounds and we do a planning process for each of those, a public planning process, and out of that comes a design. You then can have them all designed and staged together and potentially constructed together by one company. There's absolutely cost savings there. We all know that, and that's savings to the taxpayers. And then the last thing I'll mention is what a wonderful, if we could do this and get this going in the next 0 to 5 years, you could see some major progress and some tangible impact on the community, which I think would be a wonderful legacy for Lindsay and the other long-term members, as well as our town council. So, anyways, that's where this comes from, and I certainly am happy to read it if you'd like.
Any other questions from members? Do anyone have a chance to look at the letter? Are we okay?
Yep.
You want to make it a motion for us, Steve, to move this?
Sure. I would vote to authorize the chair and vice chair to begin preliminary discussions with all related stakeholders and report back to the CPC as outlined in the letter included in our packet.
I'll be glad to second that.
Any further discussion? Ellen, would you call the roll?
Terry Duenas,
Yes,
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
yes,
Lindsay Council.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you very much. Our next item is a discussion to vote and authorize expending $9,600 each for 2 requisite baseline documentation reports from the CPC Administration Fund for 5 parcels that the town of Barnstable will be granting CRs for as mitigation for phase 3 of the Cape Cod Bikeway project, and the total will be $19,200. This is for the 4 parcels in the Marydon area that we are granting conservation restrictions to Mass Fish and Wildlife, and then the 175-acre parcel on in the Bridge Creek area. We have 5 parcels. We had hoped we could get the state to pay for this, but they are not so inclined. And as the owner of the property, the baseline documentation report falls to the owner to show the condition of the property, and the state requires these. We have in the past gotten away with not doing them on some of our recent acquisitions because the properties were too small with the land trust and such, but these are going to be required. Ellen has reached out to the procurement department to look to see to get some competitive bids, but having this number at hand, I would do a not to exceed. If it comes in less, we'll spend less, but we're going to be transferring these soon, so I wanted to get the ball rolling on that. Any questions?
Yeah, Lindsay, I have a question.
Sure.
So if we vote to appropriate $19,200, does that mean we are committed to this contractor? I guess I'd really like to see other quotes.
Yep, I just said we're going to get 2 more quotes through the procurement
Okay.
department rules.
I just
If it
wanted to
comes in
confirm.
less,
Thank you.
we'll get it for less. The other thing I'm also developing with Steve and the town attorney is land acquisition procedures. I sent around a draft to Steve and for the town attorney's office to look at. Most of the time I've been doing a lot of this stuff, much of it in my head. But there are probably 10 or 15 requirements that need to be looked at when you look at a piece of property. Some of the things we've been doing quite efficiently. We seem to be able to make approval and decide who's going to be the owner and who's going to be the CR holder. But there are things in the checklist going forward, and as more marginal properties come to the market and come for offering, we may need to consider 21E preliminary exams and 21E thorough reports. These are expensive things. We've done them in the past, but when we bought gas stations and things, but we'll be bringing forward this checklist to add to our website in the near future, and making sure that when we do a budget for a project, that we include some of these expenses right up front. Again, it's like looking at these parks projects. Get that planning money up front. We know it's $250,000 to design a decent project. We should be including these funds up front, and members should be aware of them early on. So this has been a bit delayed. Of course, it's only taken how long, Terry? 20-something years on the
21
bikeway.
years.
So it takes time, but we're about ready to finish that
That's great.
transfer. And that's really where this is coming from. So if anyone had a motion to approve this expense based on the lowest bid, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to authorize expending $9,600 each for 2 requisite baseline documentation reports from the CPC admin fund for 5 parcels. The town of Barnstable will be granting CRs as mitigation for phase 3 of the Cape Cod Bikeway project. Total $19,200, and again, 2 additional quotes will be obtained, and we will go with the lowest bid.
Thank you.
Second
Second, did I
that.
hear? Very good. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Ellen, will you call the roll?
Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
Lindsay Council.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. And the last couple items, we need to approve our fiscal year 2026 CPC plan. Is everyone okay with that? Anyone have any changes? Discussion? You go ahead, Ellen.
Do we close the public hearing as well? I just wanted to say that we did not get any more comments through email or any other way.
I would make the motion that we close the public hearing, the annual 2026 public hearing, and approve the draft fiscal year 2026 CPC plan.
I will second that.
Further discussion? Ellen, would you call the roll?
Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
Lindsay Council.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. So do we have any public comments there? Anyone here to speak to the group?
There's no public comment.
All right, and we did, I see below that, we had the vote. We just took that. Format for April 27th meeting. Continue online. Is everyone okay with that?
Sure.
Sure.
All right. We can do that. We'll set that up. Anything we missed or anyone wants to talk about? I think, we may consider, I won't be around, but you guys, we could go to meeting 4 times a year, I think, and get away with it. Maybe even 6. We didn't seem to blink much, and believe me, I think land acquisition is going to slow down. Historic preservation, something for y'all to consider going forward, because that just would make meetings more special. And we went 3 times this time, so we seem to survive.
It's true.
All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second that.
Ellen.
Terry Duenas,
Yes.
Steve Robichaud,
Yes.
Catherine Garofoli,
Yes.
Farley Lewis,
Yes.
Lindsay Council.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Have a
right,
great
take
night.
care.
Yeah.
Enjoy this lovely balmy weather.